Hello, Kat. How are you? Thanks for the videos. I saw your signed drumhead hanging on the wall. That's pretty cool. Very cool. And things are looking pretty good, so let's dive into it. We were working on that loop. You were playing it at 80 on the snare. You were playing at 100 on the snare. And I think you got a pretty good idea of what those rhythms are. So now that you know that, I want to sort of jump back into some of these fills that we were working on a while ago. Remember this page, fills number 1. And we're combining those fills into a groove. Remember, we were playing the fill at the end of every 4-bar phrase. And we were using these drum beats for that. Okay, so these are our basic 8th note backbeat grooves. These will feel pretty easy, right? Because compared to the harder stuff we've been working on, these are like a piece of cake. So, let me grab my metronome here. And let's think about a tempo. Okay, so I got 90 here. What's 90 like? I think 90's cool, but you know what? Why don't we start at 80? And we'll sort of stay in that same tempo range that we were in with that loop that we've been working on. So starting at 80, getting it as fast as 100 for now, I think is cool. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at the last 3 fills on this page, but why don't we just look at the 3rd one for this week. So, again, you were sort of doing these the last time we looked at them, which was weeks ago. You were getting them right some of the time, but not all the time. So that's why we sort of dove into looking at these specific rhythms more specifically, just on a snare drum for a while. And so now that you really understand these rhythms, we can put them back into these sort of more complicated fill ideas. So for this week, let's just look at the 3rd one. So that would be this guy here. And that is 3E and 4E and, right? So you can reference that in your mind. And now that you know what that is, just on a snare drum, that's what it is here too. The only difference is we're using different drums, right? So this one is written as high tom on top and then floor tom on the bottom. Okay, now I see I've put myself in a predicament here because I'm not using a floor tom in this setup anymore. To be honest, I don't really have room for it. This is my new recording space, and in the recording stuff I do, I just use one tom, and a lot of times I just use one tom. It's kind of the setup that I like. I like that minimalism. I tend to play better and be more creative when I have less stuff in front of me. So over here on my right, which you can't see because it's not in the camera frame, I have like an audio interface and a monitor and a little table for my laptop, and this is where basically all the mics and recording, which aren't set up yet, but the mics and everything run into this right here, and I can control it sitting right here and do a lot of recording, which means I don't really have room for a floor tom. And you know, as you know, I live in a very small cabin in the woods, so space is limited. So anyways, what are we going to do? I can play the high tom here, because that's essentially the same, right? We got a high tom here. And then instead of having a floor tom, how about I play the floor tom part? I'll I'll play it on the snare drum. I could play it on like a cymbal, but that's a little weird and I don't want to confuse you too much because a lot of times when we play fills, we don't really go onto the cymbals with both hands like that, although it's cool sometimes. But most fills, if you play a fill like that in a lot of situations, people are going to look at you weird, which could be a good thing. But let's keep it sort of normal. So I'm going to play that first rhythm on beat 3. If you got this page in front of you, you'll know what I'm talking about. And then the stuff that happens on beat 4, I'm going to play it on the snare drum instead of the floor tom. You could do the same if you want. I don't, it's just the way it's written. It doesn't matter all that much. The important thing is that you're getting the rhythms and that you're able to move from one voice to another voice. I don't really care what the voices are. Cool. So let's get this rolling. So 80, let's use just our basic beat here, the first one from this page. Bass drum 1 and 3, snare drum 2 and 4. Right hand will be on the hi-hat, playing 8th notes. And we're at 80. And then I'll just play this fill every 4 bars. Also, remember we were putting a crash on beat 1 of every 4-bar phrase. So hopefully you remember all this. And I'll demonstrate it. I'll play it a bunch of times so you can see it and hear it, and hopefully this will work for you. So here's 80. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so hopefully you get the idea there. I bumped into this cymbal a little bit, which means it's a little bit too close. Just back that up a little bit. Cool. Now how about I give it to you at 100 so you can hear that too. If you get this up to 100, you can just show me the 100 version, that's fine, or whatever tempo you're at, it's cool. So, here's 100. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, cool. Hopefully that all makes sense. So do that for this week, and let me know if you have any questions, but that should make sense, and we should be off and running with that. And then next week we can look at the next fill, and then we continue until we're done with those fills. Okay, rudiments. So, I like what I'm seeing here. Things are looking good. So, what I'm super psyched about is that you're really understanding the difference between triplets and regular eighth notes and just plain old quarter notes. That's really the hardest part about what we've done so far, And in a way, it's sort of the hardest part of this entire 4-page thing that we're going forward with, is being able to understand those different note values, triplets versus regular eighth notes versus regular quarter notes versus 16th notes, which we haven't got to yet. That'll come on pages that come after this one. So cool. A couple things. I think you're getting a little slightly lost in your lines sometimes. So like you end up playing more than you should, or I think every time I saw it, you were playing a little bit more than what's written. But, you know, maybe you're playing a little bit less than what is written sometimes. Just realize, I know, you know, the repeats on here are sort of confusing, right? But just to clarify that, everything is really 4-bar phrases. So the first line, we play that, and then we repeat. We play that again. So this whole thing is 4 bars. And then we go on, and it's the same format. This, repeat, this, 4 bars. And then we move on to the next line. And this has 1 measure here, as it's written, and then 3 repeats with no repeat at the end. So this whole line is 4 bars, okay? And then we read on to this line, which is this measure and this measure, and then we repeat both of those measures just as we played them here, which is why there's a 2 over that one. So we're dealing with multiple repeat signs. So I understand it is confusing. To be honest, this is the most efficient way to write it. And it's the way the original version was written. So you're just going to have to get used to understanding these different types of repeats, because anytime you read music, you're going to come across these things. So it's good that you're having to deal with it now, even though I understand it is sort of confusing. You're really dealing with like 3 different types of repeats, right? You have this normal repeat bar up here, and then you have the individual measure repeats here. Then down here you have the double measure repeats, right? So just try to wrap your head around those things and understand that everything is a 4-bar phrase within this. Nothing is ever a 5-bar phrase or a 7-bar phrase or a 3-bar phrase. It's always in 4s. So you have 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, etc. Okay? Making the transition from rough to single Rademachew, I think you sort of missed that. Making the transition from triple Rademachew into drag paradiddle, you got that. So it's great. I think it's really just a focus thing. Like, you can do this. It's just you got to be like laser beam focused when you're doing it. I know that if I'm not, I will make those kind of mistakes as well. Cool. And then you stopped after drag paradiddle number 2, but I wanted you to play through lesson 25, both of those lines, and through the flams, right? So for this week, show it to me again, from the top, going all the way through lesson 25, both of those lines, and through the flams. Cool? Sound good? All right. Groovy. I don't think you need to see that. You get the idea. It's just a matter of understanding what exactly I'm looking for and wrapping your head around those repeat signs and maybe getting some of those transitions. But, you know, I don't expect it to be perfect right now. I just expect you to keep working on it, and it takes a while. But I like what I'm seeing. So, what else do we have for today? We did fills, we did rudiments. Okay, we got that beat. All right, so I'm going to be brutally honest with you. you are not playing this correctly, and don't think that you are. Here's what you got to do. Before you keep practicing it the wrong way, make sure you do what I asked you to do last week. And I know it's not fun. It's not fun. I do not like counting out loud and only playing 2 bass drum notes. So boring. But it's what you gotta do in order to play this right, because you're not playing it right. So, again, we're just counting 16th notes out loud, counting 16th notes, playing 8th notes on the hi-hat, just as it's written on this page. And we're only playing the bass drum on the of 2 right here and beat 3 right here. We're ignoring the other bass drum notes. We're ignoring the left hand snare drum part. Okay, I know. Super boring, super simple. It's actually pretty hard though. Counting 16th notes, playing 8th notes, and just playing those 2 bass drum notes. And you go super, super slow. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and okay? That's what I want to see. And that's what you have to do in order to actually be able to play this thing the right way. Just make sure your voice doesn't change. Make sure your right hand doesn't change. If anything's going to get messed up, let the bass drum get messed up. You'll catch it the next time it comes around, or the next time it comes around. But this has to stay the same speed on the hi-hat, and this, your voice, has to stay the same speed. Okay? 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and do that for this week. We'll add to it next week. Within a few weeks, you're playing the whole thing, and it sounds like this. Alright, so we got our rudiments, we got the fill within that beat, and then we got this beat super stripped down, and that's good enough for now. So I guess that does it for this week. Thanks for working on this stuff, hope you're well, and I'll see you next week.